Hello.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us once again. It's day 13 of the lockdown, and we're still pretty kind of jolly here.
Yes, we are.
And the good news is just coming in, thick and fast. It's a lovely old thing. And I was just going to show Irma that when you're stopping a live video, there's usually a red button that says "Stop the live video."
Oh yes, I was making a live last night.
That's
I
how
didn't know
technology
how
works.
to do
And
it.
the same button that you press to start it will be the one that you press to stop it. Isn't it?
Okay.
Isn't technology marvelous?
I'm a
Anyways,
newbie on these things.
how was your day? We're a bit late this evening because Her Majesty was talking to the nation at 8 o'clock, and we didn't want to detract from that very powerful message, because this is only about the fourth or fifth time that the Queen has spoken to the nation in her entire reign, which has been a very long time, longer than my entire lifetime. And it's only been in moments of crisis, like, for example, when Diana died, or that sort of peak, very, very critical moments for the nation, that the Queen has made an address. She was originally planning to do it, I heard. The original idea was to do this at Easter, but this situation is so critical that Her Majesty decided, or was advised, to go live a week early, just to say to everybody, stay home, guys. And it's very wise and very sound advice, I think. So how have we spent our day then?
Well, we spent our day very busy, and well, actually we were in a couple of Zoom calls today, working. That's the joys of working from home. There is no such a thing as a weekend. That's what we enjoy doing. We also did leisure on, and just now what I'm doing is enjoying a nice glass of wine. So cheers to all.
Cheers to Mark, and also cheers to Michael, and cheers to Vele. I hope you guys are good. You know, Vele and I met on a train. That's the time we met, on a train coming into Cambridge here, which is an extraordinary thing, really. What an incredible world, and we're kind of friends online now. Hello, Jilly. Thank you for joining us. I don't know how many of us saw the Queen's message at 8 o'clock, but we were watching that all the way through, and then our son called, so that sort of delayed the broadcast a bit, because family first always, and he's doing a great job bearing up. We had to sort of give him the news, really, that we probably won't see him until June, if this lockdown goes the way that it looks as though it's going. But there is some good news. Very good evening to you, Claire. We're going to talk about the biggest bit of good news so far that's come out. And it's over here. This is the computer you don't normally see. This is the old workhorse where I do all the work. I've been following the numbers of this epidemic since the time it started. It's quite a critical thing, and obviously we expect things to slow down now that we're all starting at home. But on Wednesday, the 1st of April, the numbers of people infected increased nearly 50% on the day before. By Friday, it had increased only 20% from the day before. And today, the rate of increase, or the actual increase from the day before, it's gone down 12%. So I think, and a very good evening to you, David, I think that it's maybe early days, but we're April the 5th now. Since April the 1st, and they don't tell you these things on the newscast, it's steadily declining from a 47% increase on Wednesday in the numbers of people, the new infections, to a minus 12% decline as of today. That's fabulous news, and I'm tracking this on a daily basis. A very good evening, Jane. So our big thing tonight, and hello, Natalie. How are you this evening? Our big thing today is that we seem to be. It's early days, but we seem to be turning a corner in our fight against this horrible virus, in that the rate of increase has actually stopped, and the numbers from Wednesday were kind of going up and up, and since Wednesday it's starting to go down. And if we hadn't all been staying at home, hello Andy, how are you today? So very nice to have you joining us. If we hadn't all got together and done this very noble thing that everybody's doing, then things could be a heck of a lot worse. I'm going to put the old computer over there because it gets a bit warm, and it feels neglected, so we'll just plug it in. But since that information was hot off the presses, there wasn't time to dress it up and do it in a fancy way. So I had to go there and sort of grab it. A friend of mine, Adam, who works for the BBC, posted this today, which I thought was a terribly nice message on his Facebook. We've been reading up on a couple of things, but he posted this. When you go out and see the empty streets, the empty stadiums, the empty train platforms, don't say to yourself, it looks like the end of the world. What you're seeing is a love in action. What you're seeing in that negative space is how much do we care for each other, for our grandparents, for our immune compromised brothers and sisters, for people, some people we will never meet. People will lose jobs over this. Some will lose their businesses and some will lose their lives. But that's all the more reason to take a moment when you're out on your walk or on your way to the store or just watching the news to look into the emptiness and marvel at all that love. Look out of the window. Let what you see fill and sustain you. If it isn't the end, if it isn't the end of the world, it is the most remarkable act of global solidarity that we may ever witness in our lifetimes. That's a very, very powerful sentiment.
It is a very powerful sentiment.
And something that we endorse 100%. And it's absolutely... Oh, and hello, Sharon. It's so nice that you could join us again this evening. We're talking about the good news, and I was showing at the beginning that the numbers on the coronavirus on Wednesday, the number of people, the number of new infections was nearly 50% up on Tuesday's numbers, and it's been climbing steadily ever since this whole thing started. And this is how exponential grows, that you think nothing's happening and suddenly whoosh, and we were in that whoosh part. By Friday it was only going up 20%, and today it's actually gone down 10%. There are about 10% fewer people today infected with this coronavirus than on Saturday. So this is fabulous, fabulous news. It's too early, okay, to get too excited, because this is only the last 5 days, but the signs are very encouraging, and I will be watching this, keeping my finger on the old pulse of this, and I will tell you the good news straight away before you hear it on the news and anything, because they don't understand spreadsheets and stuff, those journalist fellas. No offence if you're a journalist and watching. Hello, Sharon. Thank you for joining us this evening. As I said earlier, it's very, very nice to have you on board. Another kind of social media thing, I will scroll down and try and find this, is that and another thing while I'm at it, it was yesterday was the 50th the 25th anniversary of the very sad death from another pandemic, HIV, of the immensely talented Kenny Everett, who was an inspiration to everybody. He was the funniest guy I've ever heard on the radio. He was absolutely, totally awesome, and a lot of his shows were made from his home in Wales, and he used to put them onto tapes and they'd be shipped up to London or whatever, and go out, and sometimes they'd do them live and whatever. But it was a very, very sad loss, and he was also the guy who got Queen's song Bohemian Rhapsody to be released as a single, because he just played it about 3 times in succession on his radio show, just as one after the other. And you wouldn't be allowed to do that nowadays, and the computers wouldn't let you and stuff. But those were amazing days. Actually, that event is depicted in that movie Bohemian Rhapsody, the one that came out, was it last year, about Freddie Mercury. Great film. If you haven't had a chance to see it, I recommend that you do. My goodness, there's a lot of stuff goes around on Facebook, because I'm just trying to find a post that I made a day or two back. So bear with me while we find this one out. It was one I did on probably really quite early in the week. What I was asking people to do is to tell me how they thought that life for them might change at the point where we come out of all this. And it's kind of looking now as if the coming out point for this virus is possibly going to be the end of May, maybe a bit better, maybe a bit before that, if we all behave and stay indoors and all that kind of thing. So the question that I asked everybody in the midst of all the funny stuff that I normally try to post on Facebook, I just had this idea really of will there be permanent changes in our lives as a result of what's happening, or will it just be fleeting? And some new answers came in today, which I think I'll just have to carry on scrolling until I find it, to be honest, because I believe that it appears that I've gone right past it, like a
You have
silly
right
boy that I
passes,
am,
yes.
and so now I'm going to scroll back up the other way. But it just shows you that we should sort of prepare these things a bit better. But when you're, a momentous day today, and I just wanted to spend the time just before we came live today, listening to Her Majesty, and at the same time, I wanted to have the opportunity to speak to our son, who we won't have a chance to see. And if you have loved ones who are far away, it's unlikely that any of us will have the sort of family reunions that we're sort of yearning for. In the near future, shall we say? So I've found it, and I think we talked to no, when was it I did this? This was
That
on the 2nd of April. So would that have been
yes,
Thursday?
yes.
Thursday, and because of the nature of social media, people are still responding to this. The question that I asked: when all this is over, how will your life have changed permanently, and will it be better? That's the sort of $64,000 question at the end, and so some new responses have come in. Rita said, I will know who my real friends are," and that's a thing, because there are people we're not being contacted by or contacting at all right
Hmm.
now. There are people from our past who are contacting us quite regularly, and that is, that's a very nice that's a very
I, th-
very
I
nice
think we'll appreciate in
gesture.
our family and people that we feel more closer to. This kind of pandemic has put us in touch with our inner selves and who matter and what matter the most, and that's how to be happy, I suppose.
Yes,
And which brings me to a question: is how long will you leave it until you live life to the full? And
absolutely.
I think we are at that pivotal moment in which we all have to take our priorities seriously. And really, if you have a wardrobe full of clothes, just I don't know, clear it out, and do the same with your life. What is not working, just move it to a different place. And in terms of your inner core and principles.
Yes, very much so. A very good evening to my very good friend Paul from the Colchester area, who's just joined us. Hello, sir. Sharon said she remembers Kenny Everett, especially with those big hands when he went up on that party conference thing. Jeff, hello. Kerry Jane, it's very nice to have you with us this evening, and also to Elmira. Sharon suggests that funerals may go online, and she's already attended an online funeral, although that's not
Yes.
obligatory at the moment. That is a possibility. Coming back to what I was asking people earlier in the week, Helen said, "If my children and family survive, it will be better. I will never take my life for granted. I will finish what I've set out to do and buy a house near my children. I'm currently 700 miles away from them."
Oh
And
God.
that's a very painful thing, isn't it? Really, it's terrible to be kind of separated in that way. Rowan said, a very astute observation: "I'll be telling everyone that if they don't figure out how to enjoy life without working, then retirement will be like sitting at home during a pandemic." That's a very sensible. That's a very
Yes,
sensible,
that's right.
sensible approach
I mean,
as well, I think.
it's just reality stroke home for everybody in these terms is what are we going to do going forward, and how are we going to raise our families and fix everything from zero onwards.
Yes, Carol said that one change that she's envisaging is that there will be less paperwork in the house, which is quite nice, because if everybody's doing
Well
stuff online,
done, well
then you
done.
don't need to carry it around with you, and so that's good for trees. And
That's one of my issues, and I think you fixed that one ages ago in terms of going and keep all in electronic files, because my background is apart from running businesses administration. So everything has to have its own place in terms of paperwork, etc., etc. But then when I met David, he showed me a better way to store all the stuff online, and we have everything in our drives. We have everything backed up. So it was a very good implementation. So thank you, David.
No, very great pleasure. But if you're using the cloud, have a backup at home as well, and then you're sort of covered whatever happens. Good evening, Sarah. Thanks for being with us tonight. We're looking at all the sort of upbeat stuff that's going on as a result of the sort of change in circumstances. Lee, who is a terribly nice fellow from Southampton, messaged in response to my question of how's things going to change after this, because obviously after 12 weeks or whatever of lockdown, it's not going to be the same. We're going to come out to a very different world. There'll have been a lot of things that were in our day-to-day habits that will think, hey, you know what, I don't need to do that anymore. I think golf will probably survive, but you know, other things might not. So Lee said, I believe that everyone's life will be better as life and its simple pleasures, its simplest pleasures, will be far more valued. He says it's all setting of sails, and I think that's a SAILS, and I think that's a very good.
That is a very good way to looking at your life going forward. I assume that by getting all of us together on the same voyage, we can look at this as an adventure. Yes, it has the ups and downs. We're going to lose a lot of people, and let's just do the best we can, which is stay at home, enjoy what we have, tidy what we need to tidy up in terms of our homes and ourselves, and it just look at it as if it was an adventure.
Yes,
Really.
yes. Now,
Adventure.
Linda commented on the lockdown. She said, it's nice. I'm not so weird as everyone's doing the same thing, and I feel much happier, funnily enough. So,
Yeah.
you know, there are these memes that have been going around about extroverts tearing their hair out and kind of clawing at the windows, and introverts with their feet up, sitting there with a glass of wine.
As a matter of fact, that brings me to
Speaking
a
of which.
conversation, to a conversation I had today with a very good friend of mine, whom I really truly and respect enormously. And he says, "Well, I've always been like that. I've always like being having my own company, enjoy my own company." And yes, we do that ourselves. I enjoy my own company as well. I can be very much alone or very much out there. So, but what he has helped me this kind of lockdown is to really reflect as to what it matters. Sometimes we go through life and we get hurt, or we hurt, we even wanting to hurt. It is a matter of reflection and just see everybody with the joy of encountering another human being in front of us. It can be different to our belief systems, but yet we respect the fact that it's from our own race. We are humans. We are sentient beings.
Now, I first met Ian McBain at a property networking event,
Yeah.
and Ian has answered. He's given a wonderful answer to my question of how life will change, and I'm going to read that out right now. He says, "I'll be appreciating my wife more, my family more, freedom more, my health, a roof over my head, my business partners, delivery drivers, bin men, the NHS, key workers, seeing the world through different eyes."
That's very
Awesome.
profound. That's very profound, and it's true. This war, this kind of siege that we're experiencing is to do with a very, very tiny, not even a creature, tiny thing, and has put us onto the perspective of seeing life in with the best possible eyes that we can ever have. Seeing the nurses, doctors, people everywhere at the front line, they are the soldiers. And the least that we can do is our duty to stay at home, to protect them, to protect our beloved, and to protect everybody that needs to be protected, even ourselves.
Good evening, Wendy, on the other side of the big pond. A recent new friend of ours through our mutual friend Ronnie. I hope you're safe and well this evening. Yassar, thank you for joining us as well. And also hello to Faith and to Andy. It's good to have you guys along this evening. So we're looking as every single day, and we're going to carry on doing this, I think, all the way through the lockdown. We're looking at all the sort of good, uplifting stories, the good news. We're all in this together, so we thought, heck, we'll invite you into our home. It's just our kind of little phone propped up with a couple of books or something, filming this, so it's nothing slick. And because there was no time to plan this, I have got a slick radio studio just off to the left here, but that's a different thing because I do a radio show, and I wanted to continue it. We had to put that together in 24 hours after the Prime Minister's announcement, about 22 hours, and we got that up and running. So that just left space to prop up the old smartphone and point it at ourselves. We have got a little tiny tripod thing, but other than that, there's nothing special going on here, except that we're welcoming you into our homes to share the good stuff, and we know that everybody's in this together, and we're all up against the same challenges. Can I read you a little something that Sharon sent?
Oh, wow, that's very good.
She wrote, opportunities in the face of adversity. They keep coming, they do. Numerous, multifaceted opportunities. I can say yes, I can say no. But simply when I compare them to my vision, to my goals, to my reality, then they do not or don't quite fit. Adversity is all around, if I see it. But on the flip side, all I can see are opportunities. But they simply are not for me, unless, of course, I choose them to be. I planned and scripted my year, but did not expect this adversity where so many suffer, feel pain. It's a reminder of what has come again over 5 decades ago, my earliest conscious adversity, and from then began a lifetime of events creating opportunities, sometimes destroyed by numerous types of adversity. And so when I got here at this moment in time, I now make the all-important choice about opportunity and adversity as I script my story, aligning my values. But what I don't know is, will it get me? Our present greatest adversity, you see, it's all around and we can't see it. Will it be luck or fate or opportunity that arises once our new life begins? Now that simply is out of our hands. That's
Wow.
Awesome.
Very profound. Very
Thank
profound.
you. Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing that with all of us. That's a truly wonderful thing.
It's
Taking
wisdom.
forward.
It's pure wisdom. I mean,
It
we
is.
are becoming more aware of what make us take and do things, which brings me to sometimes we gather possessions, we gather nice stuff that makes us feel good, and it's good and fine if it makes you feel good, if it's part of who you are and of your personality. But have you ever made the question to yourself, do they ever love you back? Love, I mean, possessions, do they give you love? No. No. So this is the opportunity that we needed as a race to understand the fundamentals of being human, the fundamentals of raising a family, the fundamentals of really protecting our elders, if they're not of our own bloodline, at least someone that we ought to respect, because they came to this world before us and they make it where it is. And for our children, what are we going to leave behind?
Very true. That's very true. And in a sense, for those of us who are parents, and we are, and I know many of you are too, then it is, our greatest thing has got to be to create a better world for our children, hasn't it? Really. So I think the best way to do that. It starts today, doesn't it? It doesn't. You can't put something at a critical time like this. You can't put something off indefinitely. It's just not on, is it?
No, well, we need to establish the difference of what we want and what we need, really.
Yes. Now, Wendy. Hello, Wendy says, I shall look forward to visiting my elderly friends again. as will we. I mean, at the moment we've just got the phone, or because actually, in terms of elderly friends, my 90-year-old uncle, he hasn't got smartphones, he hasn't got anything sort of visual, so it's literally the telephone that keeps us in touch with him. Wendy also says that she's busy deep spring cleaning and baking. We started the spring cleaning. We started it just before lockdown, and then we piled up. We got all this stuff piled up in the hall for charity shops, and some of it to
Yes.
sort of go to the great bin in the sky, and it can't go anywhere now because everything's shut. So, but we will get on the case soon. We absolutely will. Now, the MPs and royalty in the shape of Prince Charles were a bit silly because they were shaking hands and all sitting together on the front benches and all this kind of stuff, and they came down with it. Now, Scotland's chief medical officer has stepped back from the front line of giving public briefings after I believe it was twice that she was caught by the press visiting her second home, which I think was 44 miles away, and driving there for the weekend. I mean, after going in front of the cameras urging us all to stay home. That wasn't a very smart move. But she has now decided or been asked to step back from the public eye, and I think rightly so. So what about all this good news that we're talking about every day? Because we're 25 minutes into this now, we're nearly halfway, and we haven't done anything yet. But there is a lot of good news out there. We'll sort of go through that.
I wonder if anybody has had the opportunity to create happiness in their home, or you just been keeping it ticking over.
We're creating a lot of happiness.
Oh, yes, we do.
We're having a very kind of joyful time. So it's very, very possible. It's very, very possible, and it's a great it's a great thing to know. So a sort of techie happy thing, which is not a sort of funny thing, but it's more of a kind of fact, is that we don't quite know what went on, do we? With and I kind of suspected this at the beginning, but it's becoming clearer by the day that we don't quite know what went on with coronavirus in China, because we suspect they were fibbing a bit about their numbers. So we can't quite. We know as well from reports that have leaked out that they were very draconian with their crackdown measures, knocking on the door of your flat or something, taking your temperature, and any doubts, they'd hoik you out and put you into hospital, and then they'd probably weld shut the communal door of your block of flats and that kind of thing, just to absolutely enforce it. And clearly, it does appear that this has now had a very profound impact on this virus, and it's sort of knocked it on the head. But kind of in democracies, we can't sort of weld people's door shut and all that kind of stuff, can we, really?
No.
The most we can do is take them to the magistrate courts and fine them and everything. So we have to find slightly different ways of doing it. But some very reassuring news has come out of Singapore, who just acted very quickly. They didn't need to do the stuff that China did, and Hong Kong and Taiwan, because they had experienced the brunt of SARS in 2002. They were also very quick to respond, and they were prepared, and they knew what to do. And while some of us in the West here were prevaricating, sitting on the fence and having a think about it, they just rolled their sleeves up and got on with it. And that's the best way. I remember when in the days when I used to be a landlord in my younger days with student tenants, one of the problems that used to come up was some bed bugs. And landlords are always, I don't know if you remember a TV show called Rising Damp, which was on ITV, very popular, with a very funny actor called Leonard Rossiter. And your typical sort of landlord would go, oh, well, it's no problem really, it's absolutely fine, nothing to worry about. And so the first time I had a bedbug problem, and this happens from youngsters travelling around with rucksacks and things and hitching a ride and everything, and the bedbug rides around in the bottom of their jeans or something. But then when these things get into your house, they get under the wallpaper and under the carpets and all over the place. And So the first time when I sort of ignored a bedbug outbreak for about 4 or 5 days, they spread all over the house and to one of my other houses as well, because one of the tenants there was visiting his mate. And so that was a big, major upheaval type thing. Next time somebody reported it, so I gave him some money to go to the restaurant or something and spend the rest of the day there. I pulled everything out of the room and stuck it on a skip the same day, and replaced it with new furniture. Had a guy come in to spray everything, and within 24 hours it was all done and dusted, and end of the problem. So you know the parallel with this sort of pandemic, although it's obviously this is a much more serious thing, but you know, quick action can often help. And so
Well,
so
we
you
keep
know
to the guidelines. So, how do you see the future? Do you think it's going to change in terms of how we live everyday lives?
I think it will, because there'll be things that we do that we just think, yeah, you know what, why was I doing that? Like, we used to eat out a lot,
Yes,
and
we
now
do.
we've been looking at recipes, and I do the what should we call the heavy lifting. So I'll take the things and chop them up and you know put them in the saucepan and all that. But the boss here directs it and puts the spices on and says we'll try some of this out of the fridge and let's put a bit of that in and all that sort of thing. So brains and brawn here, but it's a great sort of bonding type experience,
Yes.
and
Yes.
B, the results are tastier than our favourite place where we used to go.
And has definitely made our relationship stronger.
Yeah.
Yes, we tend to share so many activities around the home, and it's just amazing. It's an amazing opportunity to get to know your beloved one more at a more profound level.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Now, yeah, so good stuff going on. It's all around us, and we reported some happy stories from Wales the other day. So I thought it'd be nice today to have a few from Scotland, perhaps, just to sort of balance things up a bit. So here we have the Scottish Daily Record, and they're reporting a few sort of happy things going on in their neck of the woods. There's a guy who's set up something that looks like a, well, I'm not quite sure what it is, because first of all it looks like a sort of table in Hawaii or something on at a sort of beach bar or something, but then it's got a skull and crossbones above it as well. So kind of
I think everybody's making their own habits and their own fun.
yeah, it's a tiki bar. What's a tiki bar?
Tiki bar. I don't. Anybody knows what a tiki
If
bar
you know
is?
what a tiki bar is, we want to know, because we haven't got any idea whatsoever. But it's built out of like bamboo and rushes and that kind of thing. Oh, good evening, Jonathan. Hope things are good with you this evening. And hello, Julie. Thanks for joining us for some sort of happy stuff during this time of lockdown. We're wondering what a tiki bar is. I haven't got a TIKI. I haven't got
Oh,
absolutely no idea. So if somebody could, even if you don't know, if somebody could Google it and let us know.
can you Google it for us,
That
please?
would be so much appreciated.
Sharon Griffiths is saying everybody's ready. Reality will maybe change. Often memories are short and habits return. Always hope we just don't go back to the bad habits. It's so easy. It's so easy. Let's just don't go back to those habits. Let's carry on being I don't know, simple humans.
Yeah, Sharon's hobby is baking more and brewing more beer.
Ooh.
So I guess the yeast comes in handy for both of those things.
By the way, I'm not endorsing wine. It's just that it's Sunday. I'm
Yep.
getting ready for the week, and
Other
cheers.
drinks are available. Cheers.
Yeah, that's that tea.
This is yeah, this is actually hot water with ginger in it, which is very tasty.
But you do like natural herbs.
I do. It's a very tasty thing. 3 bits of ginger from the old supermarket. Chop it up, drop it in the old thing, put hot water on it. It's very, very nice, because by the time it's been distilled and been packaged in a factory sat there for a year and everything, it's not as nice as the fresh stuff. So I do think that's a great idea. So and then so a tiki bar. We've got no idea what a tiki bar is, but I mean it looks like something you'd find on the beach in Hawaii serving drinks. Anyway, but with a skull and crossbones on top, which I don't quite understand. But anyway, and then so what other kind of things are doing? There's a high school in a place called Calder Glen, making face shields for NHS staff, which is quite good. We were having this debate about face masks today,
Yes,
and I was saying to Ian, you can't buy this thing from the DIY shop that's just meant to keep sawdust out your face, because coronavirus is much, much smaller. But you'd
Yeah.
think a design and technology department, so it has to be, there are these 3 grades, which are called something like, I don't know, F1, F2 and F3, something like that, or PP something, and it has to be 2 or 3. You can't have one, so because the lower grade ones will just keep big brick dust or something from going in your face. But these guys have been making, they've used 3D printing, and that's wonderful. Now that is what I call a mask.
Not this one.
That'll keep you safe. That one won't. You see, so there we are. Even though the
That's
one
my shopping
the
outfit.
little white one is made by the company that Donald Trump was trying to block them from exporting them, but obviously they've got different grades of things, and But we don't go out with masks, to be honest, because
No, we don't.
although people wouldn't
We
really
don't.
laugh, about half the people we see here are wearing masks. There is a good case for wearing masks when you're going out and about because... Oh, and hello, Sonal. Thank you for joining us this evening. There's a good case for actually wearing masks when you're out and about, even if they're crappy ones from the DIY centre, because you might have this germ and not know, because it takes 5 days for the symptoms to occur. So you might be sort of breathing out and whatever and shedding all this virus as you go unknowingly. So although these masks won't really protect you when you're out and about, the big one that Emma said most certainly would. But I don't know whether you could go to the barber with that and say short back and sides, please. But it might stop you infecting other people. So masks are good, and we like them. There's some kids in a nursery in a place called Wishaw. I thought Ben Wishaw was an actor, but apparently he's got a town named after him now, and that's in I don't know where it is. It's in Scotland somewhere, but it doesn't say which part of Scotland. But they made a superheroes. The children in nursery made a superheroes, and these are all very cute. They're about sort of 2 years old. They made a superheroes tribute video to our NHS heroes. We were watching, I think it was an Andrew Marr today, where the health secretary was being asked about the salaries for these people and giving them a bit more money since they're sort of keeping the country going. And in typical politician style, he said, "Oh well, we'll save that conversation for later, but let's address now getting everybody healthy," which means no, and it's wrong, and we should pay these guys what they're worth, and we need to recognise these key workers.
Oh yes.
And the best, most effective way to recognise these guys is I think through their pay packets.
Yes.
Apparently, there's a video on of a lady demonstrating how to use a thong as a medical mask, but we're not going to go into details, and you can see that on the comments on YouTube. And we're not going to enact it tomorrow either, unless you to sort of twist our arm and make a big donation to the NHS. It would have to be a very big donation to get us to do something like that. Yeah.
Going back to the NHS, there are fabulous stories that you see that it's so uplifting on Facebook. One of my friend's daughter, she works for the ambulance service in the area of Northamptonshire, and every time she goes out to do her, it seems like all the neighborhood knows. So every time she's out, ready to go to her duty of as an ambulance driver, and everybody just claps. She goes, oh, purple, all different colors. But it's just amazing the way the solidarity of us, of everybody around in the street. It's just amazing.
Absolutely, and
A credit to her parents.
very much so, very much so. It's a fabulous, fabulous thing. Then we're reading a few feel-good stories from Scotland today. So naturally, being Scotland, bagpipes have got to come into this.
Oh,
And
I love the sound of
I'm sure that
bagpipes.
every we saw some bagpipes in Market Harbour.
In
didn't we,
Market Harbour, yeah, just
a while ago.
outside it, yeah.
It was terrific, but they were just finishing as we arrived, which is a shame. But we got to see a few seconds of it. But anyway, being Scotland, you'd expect every self-respecting police force to have its own bagpiper. And one of the things that they've done here is that they don't say which towns these are in, but the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital, which is somewhere in Scotland, I wish I knew where, had the police piper playing some tunes outside to support the guys inside, which I thought it was a very nice gesture. We don't know which town it was, and which is it's very nice. And the Scottish Tourist Board has been making some videos to show us how beautiful Scotland is. We know that. Do you know, I've never been to Scotland, so maybe when all this lockdown thing is over, I will.
I've been to Edinburgh with my very good friend Carl, and it was a fabulous time. Edinburgh is beautiful, and she lives in such a beautiful spot. And I try burger and haggis burger. It was delicious. I never thought I would like it, but it was delicious.
Wow, wow, wow.
And the atmosphere was amazing. So yeah.
Now, here's some great advice, actually, for what to do. That we all know about the hand washing now. I think even I know. Even I started washing my hands, so this must be really serious. Because prior to that, I only used to wash my hands on Christmas Day. So kind of come on, and you think I'm joking. Here's some advice, and the social distancing. We know that stuff, and the staying at home stuff. We know that stuff. But here's some advice. So if you get one of the, not just COVID-19, but the nasty respiratory bugs that sort of go around, and there are many of them. Flu also affects and impacts people, and this is some advice from a nurse on stocking up in case we get something. Just not buying toilet rolls. Come on, but there are some more practical things that might be quite useful. I've no idea. You can't make breathing masks with the toilet. Actually, somebody did tell me why they think people were stocking up on the old loo rolls.
Okay.
Because instead of going to work, they need to perform all their bodily functions at home. So they need 40% more loo paper at home. And you can't just interchange it with the industrial ones, because the industrial ones come on big rolls like that, which wouldn't fit on your little thing in the loo.
That's
Hence,
nice.
there must be a surplus of industrial ones, so we'll have to set up a business spooling them off by hand onto little rolls and putting them on eBay.
Can I just read you this little something? It says about the etiquette of English tea.
Absolutely so.
It's a book that I found amongst those books behind. And it says here, a remedy for melancholy is always to keep a tea kettle boiling in the hearth. Hearth? Very good.
That is
Sorry about that.
No, it's
A bit of a
good.
tangent, but I just find it very creative.
We
It's
need that.
a drink which relieves thirst and dissipates sorrow.
Tea. Absolutely, everything stops for tea. It really does. So yeah, this is just a few tips for a nurse. It's not one of those from a nurse. It's not one of those silly emails that was going around saying, I don't know, suck on a piece of garlic and you won't get coronavirus. This is just saying, if you've got a winter respiratory illness, and we can expect our health service to be quite busy, so if you've rung 111 and they've said stay at home, a few sensible things that you can have in the medicine cupboard or the back of the wardrobe or something for if that happens. And we're not in any way making light of the coronavirus outbreak, which is a kind of, for many people, it's quite a nasty bug. But they say, have some Kleenex, have some paracetamol, and have your favourite cough medicine, the over-the-counter one, but make sure that doesn't have paracetamol in as well, because you wouldn't want a double dose of it. No. Honey and lemon is something that my mum used to give to me, and it's good. And the Vapor Rub, Vicks, is the one that we used to use, and I'm sure that other brands are available. That's good. You sort of rub it in there. I was a very chesty kid, our friend was recommending a humidifier, and this nurse recommends that as well, which I think is a great idea. If you've got a history of asthma, make sure you've got a supply of meds, a fortnight's worth of meds. Have some meals at home. I mean, what we did to get a fortnight's worth of food, so that if the lockdown gets any worse because of silly people breaking it, then we could really shut our door for a fortnight and not go out. We bought a tin, 14 tins of soup, but we've eaten 2 of them already, so we'd have to get 2 more really. But that's the sort of emergency lockdown, last case scenario, clawing at the windows jobby. However, that you could make meals, batch them up, and sort of freeze them into little plastic containers and that kind of thing. That would be quite sensible advice. We're certainly making all our meals now last 2 days, which means we have to shop half as often. And I've lost more weight. I'm at 70 kilos now, having been 92 kilos less than 2 years, 92 kilos just before I met you. So, we would have had to keep 2 meters apart 2 years ago, because you wouldn't have been able to get any closer to me. So there we go. Hydrate is very good. Whatever your clear, your favourite drink is. My favourite drink, because I'm a bit of a strange one, me, is actually H2O. We've got one of those jug filters. The jug filters are on the whole better than tap filters, because they remove more of the crap, I suppose, because you're changing the filter quite regularly. So those filters in jugs made by Brita and others are very, very good, and they really do take a lot of nasty stuff out of water. Coronavirus doesn't come in water, so that's okay, but it gets rid of a lot of other stuff. It has been recommended that you take paracetamol rather than ibuprofen with this particular outbreak, and the NHS has confirmed that. Rest a lot if you're a little bit under the weather. Wear gloves and a mask so that you don't spread your lurgy to anybody else. And if you're living in a house with others, whether it's family members or other students, other young professionals or whatever, try and isolate yourself, try and stay in the room. We saw there are a lot of households now where there are multi-generational families, and we saw a news clip about that today where the youngsters and the sort of slightly older people, the parents and the elders were all living in the same house. Because of the vulnerability of the elders, they'd nominated one person in the household to do the shopping, and the grandparents were staying in the furthermost part of the house and keeping away, which I think is a kind of fantastic thing. Then, sanitize the old bed linen, put it in at 60 degrees into the old washing machine. If it shrinks a bit, so what? But you haven't spread any germs. But, the hospitals won't be pleased to see you now. Some A&E departments have closed altogether, but unless you're, having difficulty breathing or you've got a really high fever over 39, you should just kind of stay home. But do ring 111 and see what advice they give as well, obviously, because we're not health professionals. If you've got these pre-existing conditions, which COPD, which is a sort of chronic lung disease, or emphysema or lung cancer, or if you've got a heart condition or anything serious like that, or cancer, then you're more at risk, so you need to isolate more and take extra super precautions and be a bit fanatical about it, like I am, if you like. But anyway, I thought that was some quite nice some quite nice advice. Hello, hello Kirsty. I hope things are good up your way. Hello Brenda as well, and hello Kimberly. Hope things are good with you guys. We're basically talking about all the sort of good stuff that's going on. There's this DJ apparently in a place called. We were looking at Scotland today for no particular reason, except I thought we did Wales the other day. There's this DJ who isn't a sort of 21-year-old in Ibiza or something. He's kind of getting on for my age, really, a little bit portly like me, so that kind of thing. And he's live streaming disco nights, which probably in his case will be ABBA, I should think, and the Bee Gees from his home to keep people's spirits up. And as opposed to and so on Saturday night, the Castle Douglas entertainer is bringing rocking Raimondo's disco to the world live from his living room. So I'm not sure I'll have time to fit that in, but God bless him. And so there was a boy who is slightly disabled, and he has been promised a year's supply of nuggets from the supermarket after bulk buyers cleared out his favourite food. So I think that's ever so nice, ever so nice. So so a lot of stories coming from all around the planet, really. It's impossible to escape the goodness of the people around us. Have your neighbours got a WhatsApp group or a group in your street helping the less fortunate? If not, there are templates now that you can download online to make one, and then you just make a little postcard, and we'll try and post one tomorrow in the comments after the thing. But we got one very early on in this outbreak. We got one through the door, and we've hooked up with this group now, and nobody's actually asked for help at the moment. But it's there should the need arise, whether it's for doing shopping or just being a friendly face on the phone, or
Or just also at the doorstep. Yes, there's been some communication going on. Can I come and just have a quick chat? And just from the outside, yes, just why not?
Absolutely so. Absolutely so.
Can I share some wisdom from coming from at the Aztecs, which are my basically when we're in situations like this, our communities thrive, and we prioritize family, education, and discipline. So we are at a stage now in which we are to be very keen into getting our family geared up for the future. Next pandemic, we all need to sit together, be together, and prioritize our family first.
Very sound advice. Now, the other day, there was a man who was trying to beat the lockdown. You can't make this up, by disguising himself as a bush. So he's running along there with his orange-coloured shopping bag,
Oh, that's hilarious.
But he what he doesn't know is that he's allowed to go out and kind of do shopping. It is quite funny really, and somebody filmed him from the upstairs window, yeah, in Stevenage it was. It's probably not the most the best way to beat the lockdown, because as soon as you move, people are going to suss out that you're not really a bush or a tree, and especially his disguise isn't all that good. It looks like more like a Christmas tree, really, and you can see his legs and arms and everything, and as soon as
Probably
he moves
Sasquatch.
away from the, he looks more like Bigfoot. He does. As soon as he moves away from the bushes that are beside him, and you see him sort of highlighted against the grey tarmac, it sort of becomes bleeding obvious. So I'm sure there are better ways to beat such things, such embargoes and what have you, than that.
But I wonder how he managed to suit himself with leaves.
Well,
As a it does look like a bush.
in isolation, he looks like a bush with legs. In isolation, I mean, my goodness, the mind plays curious tricks, and he or she looks like a he, because he's sort of lumbering around quite clunkily. But apologies to all men out there. Oh, and hello, Joy. Thank you for joining us this evening. But that is just bizarre, and he's trying to not draw attention, so he's crouching and stopping and all this kind of, but he's carrying an orange Sainsbury bag. I mean, come on, which sort of which are rather
At
sort
least
of
we know where he shops.
makes it rather obvious. That one was posted on TikTok and has had 16.5 million views, but it's
Wow.
absolutely like just about the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. And then there was some, I can't remember, I meant to talk about, did we talk about Greg James and the
Nope.
couple? Okay, so Greg James, I believe, is the morning DJ on Radio 1, although in my day it was Dave Lee Travis, who we can't talk about anymore, and Tony Blackburn, who we can. So this Radio 1 DJ found this couple who, I think they had one or two dates or something, and then the lockdown came along, so they had to decide whether to date from a distance, like most people do, just being on the other side of a screen and all that kind of thing, and ringing each other up and holding up a glass of wine near the screen and all that kind of thing, which is kind of, and saying, oh, I'll see you one day in a few months' time. Or they were getting on quite well, so this fella goes to the girl, well, why don't you just shove some clothes in a suitcase and head on over? Would you have done that for me? But three dates into it, I mean, it's a bit drastic. But anyway, she said yes, and then he was interviewing the bloke on the show, and they were co-workers, and so I believe. But suddenly they sort of like moved in together. So then he on the show confessed that it was going really quite well, and he confessed his love for her, and this is like 10 days in, so it's a bit sudden. So then the Radio 1 guy contacted the following day, he contacted the girlfriend and talked to her, and she said, yeah, it's bliss. So there's some nice, and who knows, under the normal course of events, they might never have got it together, and yet here you go.
Yep.
So now they'll probably have lots of kids and Hogmanay parties, although they're not in Scotland, so they probably will skip that. Now Dolly Parton has been entering people's bedrooms virtually and reading bedtime stories to children, which is ever such a sweet thing for her to do. And she started on the 2nd of April, and she's going to go for 10 weeks, which kind of gives you an idea about how long this is going to go on, I guess.
Again.
Apparently we're having some intermittent reception. So if you're not seeing this very well, sorry. I hope you are able to do it. We're not kind of streaming at a very high bandwidth to try and get as many people to see this as possible, but if necessary we'll have to crank it down a bit tomorrow. For the last couple of minutes of this, we were going to talk about a bit more about sort of relationships and things, but this is probably a whole topic for tomorrow in a sense, isn't
It's
it? Really,
a whole topic. In the meantime,
the clock is ticking right up to the thing. So I'm going to put all this stuff that I prepared for today. We're going to put this on the floor down there, and I'll try not to sort of kick it over. And in the meantime, we can just give a kind of summing up of the last 2 weeks. Really, I mean, how's it been for you?
Well, it has been challenging. We were used to traveling train, cars, and you name it, just to have those one-to-ones helping people with wisdom
And visiting the
and
family
visiting the family. Oh,
and all
I do
sorts.
miss, yes, I do miss my son and my daughter right now, right? So it has been a huge challenge in this case for me. I was not used to doing any lives or anything like that. So here we have David training me and getting me out of my comfort zone, and I'm very grateful for that. This kind of being indoors has really helped our relationship in huge amounts. In we cook together, we do things together, we comment together. David has got so much wisdom, and I really, really like grabbing your brain all the time. So
Oh, that's very, very sweet. And all of what Irma said, plus it's brought us closer in ways that would have taken a long time. I think otherwise it would have taken a long time to get to this point. It's fast tracked it for us. It's kind of it was make or break, and luckily we made it into make, which is fabulous.
that's right.
I think the stream is probably breaking up a bit now, so we're going to draw to a close right now. Thank you so much for your company tonight. It's been a real pleasure. Stay safe, stay indoors, find a daily routine, do
Yes.
some things at particular times of the day.
It's
That's very
Sunday.
important.
It's Sunday. Prepare your week ahead. Stick to that and make it better.
And stay safe. We'll see you roughly. I'm sorry, it's not exactly the same time every day, but we're kind of, or I am a sort of. Irma would do this every day at 1 minute past 7 or something, but kind of I'm a bit random, so she has to kind of lasso me and get me into the room and tie me to the chair so I can do this, and and here we are. But stay safe. Thank you so much for your company tonight, and we really, really, really look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Good night.